Welcome back to Raised by Giants. We are live and we have Shane the Ruiner on today. Now, I don't know what the deal is with YouTube, but a Ryder Ranger member video dropped yesterday. And for some reason, when I post in the community tab from my desktop, it doesn't do well. Like a majority of people don't see it. But if you're a Ryder Ranger member, check the community tab page for a video titled New Alien Autopsy Video. And if you're not a Ryder Ranger member, you can sign up to help support the show monthly and get bonus episodes every week as a thank you for being a channel member. So with that out of the way, we have friend of the show, regular on the show, Shane the Ruiner. How's it going, brother? It's good to see you.
Hey man, another day in paradise.
That's right. I always love these conversations. They're always fun. Always enjoy them with you. And man, what is it about this community that when someone doesn't agree with you or they can't combat you ideologically or give some sort of other explanation to what's going on, they just automatically call you a spook or somebody that is being paid by three-letter organizations. You're a misinformationalist. You're a disinformationalist. You're working for the freaking Illuminati and like all this stuff. Like, is it only with this community? Because it really seems like that it's only tailored directly to this community, and it's not really with anything else. Like, with comedians doing a podcast, if someone's listening to a comedic podcast and someone says something someone doesn't like, they're not like, he's a disinformationalist, you know?
Sometimes they do. I don't think that it is isolated to our community. It's very apparent in our community because it's small, and that type of statement towards someone is it's like cursing them out, right? It's derogatory. It's calling them names, and that's in other communities not so much, right? But I mean, if you watched well, it's a good example, maybe a Joe Rogan podcast with a Mike Baker, right? And someone who used to work for the CIA, CIA, you would see the same type of comments a lot on something like that. And in that situation it might be true, but yeah, I think that one thing I've noticed is a lot of people, you'll notice it's the same people who, when they come across someone who's uninformed or misinformed or incorrect about something, would call them a name. And so anytime they're finding themselves feeling uninformed, misinformed, or incorrect about something, they hear that name as well, almost as if that's what the person showing them something different is saying to them. But yeah, I don't think it's isolated to just our community. Again, just very obvious within our community. It's an easy one within our community because, anyone who works on that side is evil, right? So.
And it's interesting too, because the real disinformationalist and misinformationalist and the people that are actually getting paid to spread that kind of information about aren't really getting called out. It's really weird. It's a really weird dichotomy. I think that this community is just the most toxic, backwards community that has ever existed. And you know what I've discovered is that people always want to be in the know, right? They always want to know about things, but they don't want to know if it gets to the point to where it compromises the magic of not knowing. Does that make sense?
Or the belief that they formed when they didn't know, right? Like they've come up with a belief system based on information that was missing, and perhaps information that was incorrect put in place of those missing parts. And when either one of those bits of information either get taken away or replaced, it causes a problem in the mind, right? It's an ego thing. We want to be able to hold on to it. It's the same thing you'd bump into with anyone in their religion. It's the same thing as anyone you might bump into with anyone in their religion. So.
Yeah, most just want to kind of skim the surface, just kind of dip their toes in and not really take it any further, because if they do, then I think that they're afraid of ruining the mystery, right? And they want to keep that mystery. That mystery keeps them going. But what happens when that mystery is the problem? and no explanation is ever good enough, even when the explanation is correct.
Yeah, and that's about to get a lot more difficult because I mean, AI cameras are going to be the norm. Regular cameras are about to become abnormal. And what an AI camera is a fake photograph right from the very jump. And what we're going to be able to do with those, it's going to make it so that you're not going to even be able to trust videos or photos of things anymore. And that's perfect timing when we're at this place now where we're all fighting over, smoky images on still frames of longer videos and things of that nature. I don't know. I think that the best way that I've ever summed it up is that they kind of taught people that perception is reality, and now they've got the tools to make that seem true by fabricating your reality for you and making it so difficult to even be able to trust your own eyes.
Well, then, I mean, for an example, right? So the other day I did a show on Kenneth Arnold called the Legends of Ufology. It's going to be a whole series where I'm just going to go through and examine each person through since Kenneth Arnold, starting with Kenneth Arnold, and just examining their claims and everything that they're saying up until like modern day. I'm just going to just go with it every single week, right? And you would think that people would be way more interested in figuring that stuff out that really cultivated our perception of what UFOs and flying saucers were back then. But uh, it's the least viewed video that I've done in a long time, and that's not me being on my soapbox or anything, but it's just like people, they don't really want that kind of information because I just went in and deconstructed the entire ufology and pretty much came to the conclusion that the whole narrative of a flying saucer has been misrepresented. It was never a flying saucer. Kenneth Arnold never said that the shape of the craft was a flying saucer. But yet the media ran with the flying saucer story and misinterpreted him saying that the craft flew like a saucer flying across water. That's what he said. And then the media came in and misrepresented that and misinterpreted him saying that the craft flew like a saucer across water for the shape of the craft. And then that shape of the craft has been just put into the everyone's heads that that's what a UFO looks like, is that shape of the craft, when it was never that to begin with. You would think that that would be something very important for people to understand and for people to look at, but it's not. People don't care.
Yeah, it's too far into the center of the conspiracy snowball at that point. You've got your conspiracy burrito. So here's the idea with the conspiracy snowball. If you're going to build a snowball for a snowman, you're going to grab some snow and you're going to pack a snowball, and then you're going to find a patch of snow and start rolling it around in there. But if you run out of snow, then you start rolling it around on the grass, and you're going to also pick up grass. Or if you roll it through gravel, you're also going to pick up gravel. Or if you run it through dirt, you're going to end up with a dirty snowball. And that's kind of what has happened is people have started with a snowball. They've put it in whatever snow they could find. They've rolled it around in there, and then they've run out of snow, but they still have time on their hands and they really like their snowball. They really want to see it get bigger. So they just roll it around in whatever they can find that might fit like into their snowball. The unfortunate problem is, and an example of this would be, say, the one offshoot of the secret space program based on the Montauk project. That initial snowball could have never been snow. Maybe someone just started with a styrofoam ball and yeah, and people started rolling that around in the snow and then presented that to you as a snowball. The problem is you saw the snowball when it already had 4 or 5 layers of maybe real snow, maybe styrofoam, maybe artificial snow, maybe grass and dirt, and someone told you that this was just a real snowball. And that's kind of where we're at with a lot of this stuff, is because it's been rolled around for so long, and the story dies out, and so time goes by and we put it on the shelf and it collects dust, and then when something comes out that reminds us of it, we bring the snowball back out, we start playing with it again, and almost forgetting about the fact that there's a big hunk of styrofoam in the center of that thing that was never real to begin with. We don't want to find that styrofoam either. We just want to get a nice layer of snow on the outside and say that that's real. But I think now we're at a point in the world where it kind of doesn't matter because all of those snowballs are melting. And if the center of them, what was left was styrofoam, we're starting to see, well, there was never anything there to begin with. And yeah.
I'm so happy that you brought up the conspiracy burrito because I've been waiting for you to come on so I can show this bumper because it's amazing and I didn't want to show it to everyone without you being on the show. So here it is, conspiracy burrito time, baby. Yeah! When regular conspiracies aren't working out, make yourself a conspiracy burrito. Wrap up all of your favorite conspiracies all into one tasty burrito. Secret space program, directed energy weapons, evil reptilians, abductions, CIA mind control, remote viewing, Mandela effect, the Philadelphia experiment, space Nazis, mud flood, Tartaria, time travel, reverse engineer technology from extraterrestrials, underground bases, Antarctica, the Montauk Project. Wrap up all of your favorite conspiracies into your very own conspiracy burrito. Yum. Don't you love that conspiracy burrito, Shane? So good.
And it's not that any of the ingredients within that burrito are completely not real. This is one thing I need to stress. I believe that aliens are real, but I can still see that that's not a real alien in that video. I believe that robots are real, but I still know that that's not a real robot in that video. I believe that direct energy weapons are real, but that's still not a photo of a direct energy weapon. We should be able to say that. We should be able to say that. And I don't think that it's very difficult to say that's not real.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. And, also in that video that I did the other day on Kenneth Arnold titled The Legends of Ufology, I found out about a gentleman, the very first contactee ever in modern times, while researching Kenneth Arnold. Kenneth Arnold was one of the first people to see a strange craft in the sky, but there was another gentleman in 1950 named Samuel Eden Thompson. Have you ever heard of Samuel Eden Thompson?
I don't think so.
Yeah, not very many people have, right? You would think that it would be important information for people to know about. So Samuel Eden Thompson was driving his car in Washington. He saw a craft that was like 9 feet long by like 10 foot tall or something along those lines. I'd have to pull up my notes to get it completely accurate. But he came toward the craft. These naked beings appeared on the on-ramp of this craft. He went closer to them. They realized that he didn't mean them any harm. So then they brought him aboard the craft, and there was 25. They were all just naked. They were all like very, according to Samuel Eden Thompson, they were very naive and childlike. Even the adults were naive and childlike. And he said and they looked very humanoid. They looked almost identical to us, right? And they told him that they're from Venus, and that they had stopped off at Earth to do something, regardless, because some of the other people that have tried to travel to Earth was shot at by military forces. So they tell Samuel Eden Thompson spends the next I think 60 hours with these beings from Venus, and they give him all this information and stuff, and talks about how the problem with Earth, people on Earth, is that their astrological signs are all different. They're all born under different astrological stars and signs and planets. But everybody on Venus is all born under the same astrological signs. They're all born under the planet Venus. So therefore, they're basically all the same. But the differences with Earth is that everyone's born under a different astrological sign, which I thought was a very interesting concept and idea. Now, I don't think that the story is real, but it's him talking about that is a very interesting concept and an interesting theory. But also they told him that they were vegetarian and that they live for a really long time and that they don't get ill and all that. It's sort of like another Raelianism contact experience that Rael had in 1974 with the Elohim ship coming down and telling them that the reason that they can live forever is through cloning and using robotics, which is another really interesting concept. But you would think that would be more interesting to figure something out, like that gentleman, Samuel Eden Thompson, back in 1950, because really Betty and Barney Hill kind of took the whole alien thing, like in the abduction stuff. And Samuel Eden Thompson, his entire story didn't get published until like the 80s. So like worldwide, it got like a few paragraphs in a local newspaper in Washington, but it wasn't widely publicized until the 80s. So I don't know. I thought that was really interesting. Like, hey, like this is the first contactee ever in like modern times, and no one knows about him.
I was going to say something about reasons for that, but I don't know, man. I don't know what to say about it anymore at this point, because I just feel like the way that the world is going, we're so off the rails that if a lot of these things were true, why is the world going the way that it is? And why is it not following some type of coherent reality with this story that we keep hearing? Maybe the aliens are just really assholes. You know, at the end of the day, they're bullies, and they're, way stupider and way worse morality moraled creatures than we are. And that's why they're just playing these games. They're just allowing these games to keep playing. Or maybe there's a certain amount of this that it's just human beings need to figure out human being stuff, and their inability to figure out human being stuff is a problem. I quoted this earlier. I don't know where it came from. It was a scientist, and he was being asked about the Fermi's paradox, and he said, if man ever shakes hands with aliens, it won't be because we overcame nuclear weapons. It'll be because we overcame the Xbox. Which is kind of just to say, like, replace Xbox with whatever your drug of choice is, really, your escapism, or even just, the aliens concept itself could fit into that bubble. Because if I don't know, if I was outside this planet looking in and I heard all these people telling all these nonsensical stories about me, I would either do one of two things: see ya, or I would come down and I would correct it all in a hurry. I wouldn't just allow this to continue. But I think that that bubble is getting ready to pop, because I think that we're going to start to hear a little bit more about what they are actually doing on the human level. And it's going to explain away some of the things that we've been seeing over the last 20, 30 years in recording.
Because it's identical to what other humans are doing to other humans. Because it is humans. Yes, and I agree with a lot of that, but I can answer the question of why nothing has gotten better and why these extraterrestrials don't come down and give us their super highly advanced technology, and why we're not in this golden age of humanity is because they're demons. They're demons, Shane.
Yeah,
they're evil. They're evil demons.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of human governance structure applied to something that you would just have to assume, to have even got to that point, should be beyond a lot of that human governance structure. Even the messages that they seem to give us tell us to move beyond that human governance structure, but yet we still apply that same structure to them while we're telling their stories. There's just way too many contradictions in a lot of it that, and once again, this is coming from someone who believes that it's real. The stories are a problem, however, only because it takes all of the focus away from human responsibility. And that's been the problem, even with our involvement with aliens over thousands of years, and will continue to be a problem unless we figure it out.
Yeah, a way to shift responsibility. Everything that's blamed on extraterrestrials, like we've talked about several times, is exactly what humans are doing to other humans. And it's gotten so far that I don't understand how we're going to actually get out of that whole trap. You probably haven't seen the new jellyfish UFO from Jeremy Corbell. Have you, or have you? Did you see it?
Of course. I mean, everyone's, it's impossible not to see it, and
Yeah.
that should tell you a thing or two within its in and of itself. But
what's really interesting about that is, as soon as that video came out, I was doing all my research on Kenneth Arnold to prepare for my show the other day. And Kenneth Arnold in 1962 started saying that the craft was jellyfish, and that it was translucent, and that it could transform and take the shape or the identity of whatever it wanted to take the form or shape of. I was like, wow, this is just a coincidence that this video comes out right now. I'm doing all this research on the first person that ever witnessed a strange craft in the sky in 1947, and he's also referring to this craft later on, of course, because Kenneth Arnold had 7 other sightings after his initial sighting in 1947 that no one ever talks about, that I explained in my video the other day. And he started calling them jellyfish, that they were translucent, they could turn into whatever, that they were biological entities.
it also echoes older generations of witches talking about different types of spirits that they would see, would often end up looking like something they would use a sea creature to describe, which I think is a lot of it. But yeah, did you see the movie Nope? Because that was also a very similar type craft was what they were showing. But if you kind of catch what it's showing, it's not really a craft, it's an entity itself. And because of the fact that it's showing us a craft like UFO image, I think that maybe we might have been getting a message we didn't want to hear in that movie, and kind of just focused on aliens again.
Well, that movie is really interesting too, because it almost looks like is it jellyfish like, or is it more like a mushroom like? It's more of a jellyfish, right?
Yeah, though even the way that it would come down and pick things up. Yeah.
That's wild. Too many coincidences here. Arnold saying that they're jellyfish like, that they're biological entities. Jeremy Corbell, well, Nope came out before this jellyfish UFO with the jellyfish, and then Jeremy Corbell releasing this jellyfish UFO. What do you think of the footage of the jellyfish UFO? Because a lot of people say that it's a balloon.
Yeah, it could be. It could be some type of drone. It doesn't strike me as anything that would be anything outside of Earthbound, if that makes sense. Like anything that we couldn't make in a hurry, or haven't made things like that. Somebody was pointing out how it looked a little bit like the Jetman packs that they were experimenting with, and that could have even been a possibility with the way that it was kind of shaped. But yeah, I mean, we don't even see any type of spectacular movements that really need us to go into a, hey, it's UFO. But that was the hashtag that we saw it under, right? It was like, I don't know if you've seen a more recent one. I think it was for an outdoor hockey game that the AHL was doing. And they had aerial display, basically flying pyrotechnics, and people were calling it a UFO. And it was funny because I kept seeing it on X, and it was underneath, like, everyone, what is this? Hashtag UFO Twitter, UFO Twitter, UFO Twitter. Joe Rogan had Jim Brewer on recently, and he was talking about seeing something strange in the sky. Joe pointed out to him that he lives right next to where Tesla tests their rockets. And Joe just said, like, so did you Google to see if they did a rocket launch that day, or did you just immediately go to Reddit? And I mean, again, I'm not saying Joe Rogan is any type of god, but just the logic in that question is something that I think this community has lost, right? Is that we are supposed to go to the fantastical when all of the regular options are exhausted. We're not supposed to go to the fantastical and then ignore all of the regular information and all of the possibilities that are just normal, which is what people are doing these days. Saw it a lot with the Miami aliens. We've saw it, the lady in the mask on the plane. all kinds of different instances of people doing that, where they jump to the conspiracy, ignore the information, like the facts of the situation, because they heard the conspiracy first. And yeah, Reddit, the way that X is working now with things like that example, TikTok being a huge contributor to all of this. I'm not blaming anyone, because it's almost impossible to know, and we're all so conditioned to want to share it as soon as we hear it. And so, every day I see this comment on social media. Well, I haven't had time to look into it, but it seemed interesting, so I shared it anyways.
That's right. That's what happens with a lot of people, and it's unfortunate that it's like that. But this is the image that people are sharing around on Twitter. That it's a balloon, bro.
Right. And like, to throw up a counter argument to that, that's obviously a Photoshop collection of balloons. That's not how the balloon would just be bought or presented normally. Someone had to go out of their way to make it fit the shape of that. So I don't think that that's a valid explanation for it either. However, most pilots who have seen it say, like, I see those all the time, it's probably a balloon. And again, there's nothing really spectacular about the way it's moving. So why do we have to take that very blurry image, moving in a very, very basic and normal everyday way, and assume that, I don't know, that's a UFO of some sort? I mean, it's kind of a weird design. Is it just a flying creature? Because that's an awfully still flying creature. Is it a flying statue? I don't. Why UFO is my only question, when it could be just that, right? Random collection of balloons tied up together. Really,
Well, I think that the idea comes from is if you can duplicate something and it look almost identical, then it's something that is mundane. I think is what the theory is behind that. Do you remember like ghost hunters, like back in the day? I don't know if you ever watched Ghost Hunters a really long time ago, but they would always try and go in and like duplicate the activity that they caught. And most of the time they were able to duplicate it like verbatim. So then that brings in the question, well, was it something mundane? And well, if you can duplicate it, then it's more than likely something very mundane. But Wu Gai Fu says McWest does an excellent analysis on the UFO videos using his own software. Yes, he does. He's incredible. And shout out McWest. I was actually going to show one of his videos on here today, but I don't know if that will get me hit with some sort of copyright thing. So I'm just not even going to risk it. But yeah, if you want to get more detailed analysis of this UFO balloon thing, head over to McWest's YouTube channel. But that's the whole. I think that's the whole theory behind it. Is if you can duplicate it, then that means that it's something mundane, and there's another explanation to that. Would you agree there?
that's where you've got to start, right? Like, so let's start with some type of test. Is basically what it is. It just tested against reality, tested against other things we've seen. And also, oh man, in this case, can we please consider the source? Because why is anyone still listening to that man and the entire parade that he's on? But yeah, we are supposed to start with eliminating all of the most basic, obvious possibilities. If nothing fits, then we can start speculating. But if everything fits, we don't need to draw it out into that. And we talk about this a lot. I'm frustrated by it because I know that everyone's intentions is the opposite of the outcome that they're getting based on what they're doing. And that's disappointing to see, right? It's like when you're watching someone try really hard to prove something and every action they take just makes it harder for them to ever prove it. It's disappointing to see. And I understand the impulse. it's an excitement, right? Especially like, this might be it, and I want to be one of the first people to share it. I don't want to share it 4 days after everyone figured out that it was a real video of the aliens who were landing on the White House lawn, right?
Because that doesn't get the clicks, bro.
Exactly. And I think that's what feeds into a lot of it these days. And if you guys don't think that, you know, the countries that may not have North America's best interests at heart right now know that and own the sharing mechanisms on which you're perpetuating this, you're just wrong. It's just, that's just incorrect and illogical. So
Yeah, I waited until a week after the jellyfish video had been released because I wanted to see what other people were saying and bring in different theories and different speculations on what was going on, you know, just to be sure. I mean, obviously, I already knew that it wasn't a UFO, but I wanted to see what other people were saying about it. But there were so many channels that was just on it immediately. Like, oh my God, I can't think Jimmy Corbell just released the jellyfish UFO. It's the best thing that we've ever seen. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. You know? And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to. Obviously, it's not anything that Jeremy Corbell has ever released has been turned out to be something very mundane, like the UFOs that he apparently filmed over a base in California that was in his backyard. Those were proven to be military flares. The triangle craft that he supposedly has video of is the aperture of the camera makes a triangle in the center of the camera. So then everything that it films and the things that are out of focus creates a green triangle in the center of it. So wherever you're moving the camera, the triangle is going to go. You know, and that's almost identically what happened with also another thing that was revealed by Jeremy Corbell was the chandelier UFO. Did you see the chandelier UFO that he presented in that documentary?
I didn't see the documentary, but so many people, I see too many videos. I don't even know which one's which anymore, to be honest.
Well, I want to pull up a screenshot of the chandelier here, the chandelier UFO really quickly, because this one is interesting. But this one turns out to be the aperture of a camera, as well as Mick West has debunked. It's a different kind of camera aperture that creates that kind of the what looks like this chandelier UFO. Now, apparently, there's video of this. This is just a still image that Jeremy Corbell put out on the documentary and said that he's seen the entire footage of, but for some reason couldn't release the actual video of it. So he just showed a screenshot of this.
Okay, I mean, it's meaningless, especially in today's day and age. I mean, not even in today's day and age, that's still meaningless. It's just a random image on a screen. We don't know where it came from, except for where he says it came from, which is that whole, I don't know, but someone else who doesn't know says that they know, so I might as well just decide that that's what happened. But yeah, and this is what I mean. It's too much at this point. And now, as soon as I saw the ads for that new Samsung U24 camera AI, I gave up at that moment, to be honest. No video you're ever going to show me from this forward is going to be believed by me, because we have too much technology to mess with things and too many people incentivized to do it. And yeah.
Well, Mick West pointed out that there's like a smoke trail. I don't know if you can you see the my mouse on here, but there's a smoke trail that's coming out from behind the this chandelier supposed UFO that goes up and around like this. And he also speculated that maybe it is a back of a aircraft, it's the back of a rocket, and the aperture of the camera is making it look the way that it is. And it turns out again to be something very mundane that's been misrepresented as something very fantastical, just like Kenneth Arnold's story back in 1947. The exact same thing is happening over and over and over again. That's why it was important for me to go back and really dissect that entire Kenneth Arnold story. But really quickly, Matthew gifted a Raised by Giants membership. Thanks so much, Matthew. You're always gifting those memberships. Thanks so much, brother. Really appreciate you for doing that and supporting the show like that. Means a lot to me. And if you are a Ryder Ranger member, go to the community tab of this channel and scroll down until you see the brand new Ryder Ranger member video dropped yesterday. And for some reason, I went into the community tab on my desktop and it doesn't let people, a lot of people view it when I post it on the desktop for some reason. It doesn't get seen by a lot of people, but there's a new Ryder Ranger members only exclusive video on there for you guys to watch, and it is titled New Alien Autopsy Video. So check that out after the show is over. Thanks so much, Matthew. Appreciate you, brother. So everything that Jeremy Corbell has really put out there for people to examine, it seems like only the people that really want to believe that it's actually UFOs believe that it's actually UFOs. Everybody else, like I talk to people all the time in like everyday normal life, like what people in the community would refer to as like normies, right? And I try and ask them about this kind of stuff. You know, I try and ask them, I'm like, well, so what do you think about UFOs? Do you think extraterrestrials exist? You know, and they don't care, dude. They legitimately just do not care. Like, that it doesn't make a difference to me. It doesn't matter to me what's going on there. And they were like, oh, well, if the government's saying it, I just don't really care. And I'm like, well, it seems like the only people that really care about this kind of stuff is people that are already engulfed in it. The people that are already involved in the community are the only ones that care about it.
I think they imagine an outcome that's not there too, because I mean, based on what I know that they know, if they were to just come out tomorrow and put on a press conference and show you everybody pictures and just tell everything, the next day is going to look exactly the same as if they had never done that.
Yeah.
Everyone's still going to have to go to their jobs. Like, it's not this society changing thing that everyone thinks it is. And I think that's what people are catching up to now. And that's why a lot of people are kind of like, man, I don't even care anymore. Like, we're in the middle of World War III. I think we have bigger problems. It's like, you know, the expression for what you're talking about, instead, the nicer way of saying talking to normies would be touching grass, right? Just going out and seeing what other people who aren't in your echo chamber think and feel and talk about, and those type of things, instead of, you know, doing one of these to all of them, as this community likes to do as well. But, you know, actually hear a different, what's that expression? Get fresh eyes on something, right? As an example, if you're following Ufology and you know who Jeremy Corbell is, and then he presents you with that picture and he tells you this is a UFO, you might look at that and decide that it's a UFO. But if you just walked up to someone on the street and showed them that picture and asked you what they think it is, I guarantee you UFO is not going to be the thing that they say.
Yeah.
Right? And that's called front loading, and that's what Jeremy Corbell is the king of doing. He is the king of convincing you that what you're about to see is a UFO before you even see it. And so the want to believe in you will take care of the rest. I keep going back to that AI camera, but it's the same thing. It's just filling in the detail that we don't already have with whatever we feel like. Right? Whatever we like, or whatever, you know, if we don't remember what color something was, we'll pick our favorite color and it was that color. Or depending on if we're trying to describe something we didn't like, then we'll pick our least favorite color and it was that color. We've been doing this type of thing for forever. And yeah, I don't know, man. I think that I don't think that there's much time left for us to even talk about this. I think that yeah, I think that the world is accelerating in a direction that's going to prove it right or wrong.
I agree, but we got a little time left, baby, so we're going to keep drilling these UFOs, dude. Gesture says Corbell and Knapp will say that they can clearly see a UFO flown by dogs smoking marbles. Yeah, but that's the truth. I literally saw a video from Tony Merkel on Instagram that someone sent me, that he says that there was an entity at the UFO congressional hearing last year. And I wish I could pull the video up, but I'm not going to risk playing the video. But it's he shows the real video, and then he zooms in to underneath someone's chair to where you can see a little bit behind, like underneath the chair, and it's literally a picture of someone, like a video of someone moving their legs, like from the row behind the front row. And he's like, it's an entity, it's moving back and forth. I'm like, no, dude, it's just someone's legs, bro. Like,
and like I was saying about it not being isolated to our community, if you think of the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting and everyone's arguing over the video of that, and you know, people choosing what they wanted to see, not what was actually played in front of them. And also the way that you could edit it to a certain point that makes it look like a totally different thing happened, which is what they did with the media right off the bat. And then when we see the whole video, we're like, oh, right. And January 6th was another example of them doing exactly that same thing with video. You can present an angle. That's what filmmakers do. And with all of the technology available to the average person, it's not very difficult to do. So you got to learn how to read through these things. And
well, I mean, that's the whole topic of this this TMZ documentary as well. I did a whole show on it before, so I don't want to repeat everything that I said in that show before, but I think it's important because they did a whole like 10 or 15-minute segment in that 3-part TMZ documentary on Tubi that they were talking about why all the photos are blurred of UFOs and why all the pictures are blurred and all that. And they were just like, oh, it's because of the phenomenon. The phenomenon magically turns a brand new iPhone into a early 2000s flip phone, right? Magically. It's just the UFOs and the aliens themselves that can magically blur people's images. And I'm thinking, well, you know, as a filmmaker, I mean, I've made a documentary and I know about editing. I know about sound effects and like all that. And Jeremy Corbell, being a filmmaker, which pops up under his name during that documentary, says filmmaker underneath it. He should know why all of the footage is blurred. You should know why the footage is blurred and it's never in focus and it's very obscure. It's because it's fake. It's because something has been inserted into the video, something has been inserted and superimposed into the image, and they blurred the entire thing to cover up the superimposed thing that they've put into the video or the image to make it harder for people to recognize that it's a complete fabrication.
Another trick I've been seeing is where you've got a video that's like a very distant view of something, and the camera moves, and then someone cuts out just this little frame down here of this big picture. And so that, like, if you imagine what that looks like, that's like all of a sudden,
Yeah.
right? And with that little frame, and then they're like, oh, look, it's clear footage of something. It's really not. It's a couple pixels of light that could be interpreted to be anything you wanted it to be. What are those tests called that psychologists use? Rorschach tests. I can never say the word, but you know, we see things in blotches very easily, and that this thing that's happening with the TikTok, because various people edit it and they edit it at different points. Like I had one thing the other day where people thought that Jewish people were materializing out of sewer grates because they didn't see the first half of the footage again, right? So it's like the camera looks down and you can actually see the person crawl up and out of it. But if you were to stop it at the point where he's crawling out of it and just play it forward from there, then you don't see the whole part where he was underneath it first and had to work up to that part. And then, yeah, maybe it could supply that beliefs or support that belief. It's the same thing that I keep seeing with people jumping on stories is they're reporting misinformation and then speculating on that misinformation. And then everyone's argument becomes the reason for speculating, right? It's like, well, the reason for speculating was never real. And so that kind of takes away your whole reason to speculate. But all these stories that they've built through the speculation. It's those layers of that snowball. That's where they're rolling it around in the grass, or they're rolling it around on a gravel driveway, or not in enough snow to actually put a clean layer on it, right? They need to roll that ball. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but like I said, my just kind of, maybe it's just hopium on my own end. I don't think I'm going to have to talk about it for much longer.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think things are going to get pretty wild. Jenna Banana. Okay, I need to figure out where the member stuff is. Well, if you're already a Ryder Ranger member, you can go to just click on the channel and then go to the community tab of the page and scroll down, and you'll see the members only content on there. And thanks for being a Ryder Ranger member, Jenna Banana, one of our newest. Thank you very much for your support of the show. But it's just incredible that it's gone on for this long. And then the next Legends of Ufology that I'm going to be doing is on Paul Benowitz and the mis and disinformation that was given to him directly from the military that completely fabricated all this thoughts and ideas about aliens, and a lot of the things that he was talking about are still regurgitated to this very day into the community that were complete and utter fabrication. So once you dive deep into these people's stories and these people's background, you realize that it's been so steeped into mythology, and it's not what people believe that it actually was. And I think that that's the point where people just they just shut off, because again, it ruins that magic of not knowing, and they want to keep that magic of not knowing because it adds mystery to life.
It also gives them the poetic license to believe whatever they want is actually in that place. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of people, is world events are kind of making it pretty clear that the way you believe the world to be, it's not that way. And that's not even just directed at this community. It's just human beings at large right now are going through this. And that sucks. It's a terrible feeling. It's a grieving that you go through. And, I definitely don't look down on anyone who's caught up in the dream after the dream. This is what I call this. And I get it. It's better. It's better than the reality. And it's better than the mind control on that end. But it's still a form of mind control that they've got you under, so that you're not looking at what is actually happening. And unfortunately, that was fine from 1990 to 2019, but we ran out of time. And we need to melt those snowballs down. We need to collect all of the real water that was in those snowballs. We need to clean out and filter out all of the grass and gravel and dirt and styrofoam blocks that made up that stuff. And get ready to enjoy the real world as it does what it does.
And that's really what I'm trying to do, but it really seems like that very few people are interested in that deconstruction of really mythology and the entire community. And it's kind of upsetting, and it's kind of, getting me down a little bit, because I'm like, hey, like, I put a lot of work into doing this. I put a lot of research and like a lot of study, and I appreciate everyone that's supporting me, especially Matthew, that's gifting these people, Ryder Ranger memberships. It's incredible, the support, but it's disheartening when you see somebody that is talking about remote viewing the mall aliens in Miami, right? And it's a load of nonsense. It's a load of crap, and they're getting like 10,000 views on that video, or 20,000 views, or 30,000 views, because the algorithms for some reason love that type of content, and it just boosts them up, and they get probably hundreds upon hundreds of dollars in donations. But then when you have someone that's trying to really come out and give you accurate information, accurate research, and that's not me saying that I'm right all the time. Obviously, people get things wrong, but I try and correct myself if I do get something wrong. But it's like that kind of content isn't on the level of the magical fairy tale nonsense land content. It's like they always have a leg up on the people that are actually trying to put out solid research and with accurate information in it. But Lily Nova Starseed can do a freaking video on remote viewing the mall aliens in Miami and get thousands and thousands of views and hundreds of dollars in donations when it's all made up garbage.
Yeah. I completely forgot what I was going to say because I didn't know that. It kind of made me laugh and then took my train of thought away. But yeah, I think there's a part, like, we know that there's truth to aliens and we want that truth. We know that our government is lying to us and hiding things from us that we should have, and we want those things. So it's coming from a good place within us. But it's also being played on, and a good example of how it was played on is that Miami thing, because the problem was aliens. And I'm not being rude, but the problem was illegal aliens. That's why we didn't get names of the 50 people that they arrested, because the left wing of the United States has got a vested interest in not having that stuff in the media. And hopefully I'm not getting you in any kind of trouble by pointing it out even now, because that's how serious they're taking this. And that was the problem. But if everyone's talking about space aliens, man, does that help, right? I know that definitely helps. Let's boost that signal.
Yeah. Let's get everybody off track with alien and all that thing. All that stuff came from one source, one person that wasn't even there, that took a photo, took a video of the outside of the mall. He wasn't even inside the mall, and said that people were reporting that there were 10-foot tall, 8 to 10-foot tall aliens that people were spotting at the mall. It came from one singular person, and then it took
And
on a
then
life of its own. And that's a
and the next
perfect
morning,
example for
yeah,
everything.
and the next morning he made fun of us and told us how badly he was trolling us with, because he wasn't even in Miami. The picture wasn't even from there. And that's what I mean, like that clip of the video that people keep showing, that's like in the first frame. Like as soon as you pull up the full video from that dude's balcony, that frame is in that shot. It's down here in the bottom corner. And then the camera goes up like this and it comes back around and it comes back down. But if you were to just cut out that frame from that that's the image you're looking at. That's the footage of the smoky alien that you're seeing. It's not. It's just a person walking through headlights. That's all it is. Go back 30 seconds later and there's hundreds of people in that exact same spot. That's a pretty quick moving alien and awfully brave humans if it were an alien. Oh yeah, well, let's run towards the alien. Makes perfect sense. But it was that video which dude admitted to lying to, and then the other one everyone probably saw was a lady with the curly blonde hair and the glasses talking about, and this is where the speculation starts, is why such a big police response. If it were just teens with sticks, why? Because it was never just teens with sticks. That lady said that, and that was completely incorrect. It were fireworks and fighting, kids lighting off sticks of fireworks. It's a whole sentence. It's not just teens sticks with teens with sticks, right? Because that's exactly what that lady did, and then that's what everyone speculated on. Well, then explain all the police report. Why such a big police? Why so many police? Why so many? Well, because it was kids lighting off fireworks in a mall, and fireworks are explosives and they're dangerous, and that's exactly what you would want the police to do if there was a bunch of aliens lighting off fireworks in a mall.
Yeah, that's well, my speculation toward the photo that was released. I thought that maybe it was someone from like a bomb squad in a one of those suits that they have to wear when there's a supposed bomb in the building. I thought that maybe that's what the photo was, but a lot of people were saying that it was like 3 or 4 people walking side by side. That the footage was. I'm trying to find the image really quickly. I did a show on this already, but I thought that it looked like someone in a like a hazmat uniform. You know, the ones that have like the face shield that goes up all over the body. I thought that that's what it looked like. I must have deleted the image on here. But I mean, that seemed to coincide with, you know, if there were explosives in the mall that people were letting off, if it was fireworks or whatever, they would probably have like a bomb squad there, right? Like
Yeah,
somebody with
that was
a
determined, yeah.
in like a hazmat uniform. Yeah, here it is. Hold on.
Yeah. And they would also shut the power down, and they would also block the road so people couldn't go to the airport.
Yeah, doesn't the head of this look like someone wearing a like a hazmat uniform? Like it's square and it can, like goes up. Like
Could
I
be
don't know.
anything. It's a digital fragmented image. It could be anything, right? Like you're gonna see whatever you want to see in that. But where did that image come from? Find me the bigger video, because that's not like where was this person standing that he got an aerial view of it,
Yeah,
right? What that is, it's a frame. So there was a bigger video that everyone saw of a guy on his balcony doing this. That image is a frame of that video. That's why it looks like that, because it's distorted and it's condensed down from this big giant image. And it was just a person walking through headlights in a cloud of smoke from a firework. But it
do you think that this video would have been able to gotten away with if this was like 15 years ago? Do you think that this would have made this big of an impact
not
if
at all.
this was 15 years ago?
Not at all. And the other thing, like, so I've been following the border crisis. I was watching Florida news when that event happened. And it was breaking news. And it was funny because I actually posted on Instagram as a joke the next morning. Fuck, sorry for my language. Now I'm going to have to listen to in Miami, there being aliens at a mall in Miami for the next 2 months. Not even 12 hours later, aren't all my feeds blowing up with people trying to tell me that this is an alien and walking around, that there's multiple aliens walking around in Miami. And then the same thing happened in Toronto. You and I made our little fun of it, right? And the police surrounded the mall exactly the same way. We can see that, but it really was just a shooting. So
That was really funny. I thought that was really funny what we did on X. But I mean, anything, if you have a big enough backing and something takes off, like you could just make up anything and it'd be taken as, you know, as truth. If I had like a giant following on X, like if I had like thousands and thousands of people that were following me, it could have taken off very easily. And I mean, the other day I was driving and there was an exit ramp that was completely closed off. There was at least 20 police cars. There was like 3 ambulances and it was blocking off the exit. So I had to turn the other way on the highway and then wrap back around on the highway and then get on the opposite side of the road. And I was like, man, I could just take video footage of this and then be like, yeah, there's a UFO that landed on the bridge in Colorado, and then, you know, because there was a lot of police, but it turned out that it was they were trying to entrap this man that had kidnapped his girlfriend and her 2 little kids. You know,
no,
like it could be turned into
the
anything
official
that you
story.
want.
That's just the official story. What really happened is the men in black got to everybody. And they just got to everybody so that everyone would tell you that story, because that's what people were telling me about the Miami mall thing too. I'm like, yeah, okay, I guess, suppose. Occam's razor, isn't that what it is?
Guy Fu says, I urge everyone to read about how video codecs work. They
Thank
explain a
you.
lot.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody understands that. I see so many people showing me videos and I'm just like, that video tells me nothing, and it shouldn't tell you anything either, because you don't understand exactly things like that. How very, like, lens flares, everyone hears lens flares and they think that that's just a cop out for everything. It's really not. It's the explanation of a lot of really cool visual effects. Remember when we used to do visual effects without CGI,
Yes.
right? So it's
Practical
possible.
effects. Yeah.
Practical, yeah. But
Practical effects, dude. I mean, people made things look believable back then. No Bull Truth says the alien tech was horrid back in the day. Wu Gai Fu. It was distorted when we got better cameras.
that seems to be the case too. The better our technology to capture these things are, the more blurry images of it we end up with. It's really hilarious. The Patterson footage is clearer than any alien I've seen ever, and that was taken when, 50s.
Yeah, that footage is really interesting footage. Someone has even cleaned it up even more. They turned it into like 4K definition, and you can see the hairs on this bean. It's wild. But people will argue and say that it's an ape costume, I
But
don't
those
really
same
have an
people will try to
opinion.
tell me that that's an alien. It's hilarious. It really is just people kind of picking and choosing. Maybe I am too, but it really is just us picking and choosing at this point. And that's why I mean by like I can't do that anymore, especially with the way the technology is already at and about to become way worse. We don't know. People might remember a kind of infamous broadcast I did with someone where a car just drove by on that road right there, and the light hit my glasses, and apparently that was an orb coming to visit me, right? So people can really kind of make up whatever they want behind what they're seeing, and like I try to use mainstream examples because it's happening in that world as well. Like everyone's doing it. I just man, all the different versions of the apocalypse I read, I never really noticed how many times it just kept repeating that the people would go crazy. People would be insane. People would be insane. People would be insane. Evil would be good. Up would be down. Left would be right. People would be insane. 2 + 2 would equal 5. It didn't say that, but that's where we're at. And yeah, I guess I'm just on the wrong timeline.
I guess so. Where do you think? First off, Noble Truth, thanks so much for being a member, brother, and your support of the show. Check out the community tab on the channel and check out the members only video that I posted yesterday. Do you think that I asked Ryan Gable this question the other day, and I think that it's an important thing to ask is what do you think that makes humans humans? Like what makes us human? Is it because we apparently have a soul, because we have a consciousness? Is it because that we're birthed organically? Like, what is it that you think that makes us different from animals? Because we're technically an animal. We're in the animal kingdom as well.
My answer would be an incarnated soul, but that's just my answer.
That we are that an animal is an incarnated soul.
No, that we are. That's the difference. Is that humans are viable vessels for incarnated souls, where the flora and fauna on the planet kind of just feed off of the planet's energy, the planet's consciousness and universal consciousness. And that's why they have the semblance of personality and instincts and things like that, but not quite the degree that we have, and the free will and the curiosity and various things that we have that animals don't seem to have, even that they're most intelligent. But that's discrediting what most people don't even understand how intelligent animals actually are. All right, so it might mean one thing, or me saying that might sound a certain way, but I fully believe that aliens animals speak to each other, plants speak to each other. I believe that they communicate, they can remember things, all of those things that we would typically fall under sentience. The incarnated soul as a vessel being something different than what gives them the ability to do that is basically what I believe.
But if you were to build a complete unbiological entity that a human soul could incarnate into, would that also be considered a human?
Yeah, I mean, who's defining it? By me personally,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, just
uh,
personally. What do you think? Like if I were to create a cyborg, let's say, a
no, the
complete
different
cyborg, and
species.
then but a human consciousness was able to inhabit that cyborg, would that cyborg also be considered human?
Because I don't think that a soul is necessarily a human soul. I think a soul is just a soul that can incarnate into a variety of different things outside of this planet. I mean, I would say no. And in that context, any soul incarnated into a new life form would be just that, a new life form. We'd have to come up with a new name for it. I don't know what we'll call them. Our cybernetic, what do we call 3D printed meat hybrid things that we create in this fictional reality, and then have a soul that can incarnate into that. I don't know what we'll call them, but that's a different life form.
So, in other words, it really wouldn't be you're actually basing what a human is off of its shell, what it looks like then.
Yeah, what we currently are as exactly. Because I don't think my soul is human or your soul is human per se. I think that it's a very big universe, and I think that we go all over the place incarnating into bodies, which is another reason why we believe in aliens so heavily. But anyways, yeah, I don't think that that is necessarily a necessity. And again, I've brought this up as well. If ETs were to come tomorrow, right, and set up shop here and integrate with our civilization, how many generations have to pass before we don't consider them alien anymore? When they are just natural to our planet because they've had 4 or 5 generations of natural births on our planet. Are they still alien, or do we come up with a different type of word for them? It'd be like kind of like the way we divide up races. Are they just a new race at that point? Or are they actually still a new species? Or are they earthlings like we are?
Well, I mean, that's the whole what I'm trying to get at here is that if you have something that looks identical to what we look like, but it's not biologically us, then how would you know the difference?
Yeah.
How would you know that if it's a human or not? If it's not based on the consciousness or the soul of the individual and it looks identical to us, would it not be considered us if we're basing that off of what we look like? If Shane, you are a human and I'm basing that you are a human off of the way that you look, then would something else that looks identical to us but is not us also be considered a human?
Or what about a really severely deformed human? They don't look like us, right? Is that what we're basing it on, looks? I need to get a new T-shirt made that just says one of my other favorite little catchphrases: names, 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 because we just make up names and put them on stuff. They don't necessarily have a meaning outside of the meaning we attach to them. Space bucks are worth whatever you say that they're worth, and names are also, what we place on them. So even human, alien, ET, we kind of just agree on what that means per conversation. None of them could be a correct word because, I mean, if you imagine, it's like when people take a contact to you says like, I met the Andromedans or I met the Pleiadians. Do you like, if you went to China, are those still Americans to you, or do you just call them Milky Wayians? No, you probably don't do that, right? So why would you assume that an entire planet, they're just all Andromedans, but that's the way that we play with names. And that's why, like, I say this often, our perceptions of the way things would work outside of this planet are, as they have to be, built on what happens in this planet. But you have to understand that there are planets that are just very, very, very different from us. And there are forms of life that are very, very, very different from us. And what we consider to be sentient or intelligent or alive, even, we're really misinformed on. We have a lot of alien life here. We have a lot of crazy sentience going on this planet. You're looking for something with a face that can speak words to you and walks on 2 feet. And that might not always be the case.
just like the Venetians that Thompson saw back in 1950. What up, Ryan Burns? Ryan Burns in the chat here at Paranormal. Patrick Dirk in the chat. What's going on, brother? Good to see you.
That's awesome. I'm like, neither of us are in Boston.
Yeah, he's here. That's his tag. It's Patrick's tag. So we got I don't know. I was watching the movie Creator the other day, and these entities look almost identical to us. Like you can't really tell them apart, that they're a completely AI robotic machine, that they're like a cyborg, And I think it really becomes a question is if it's a completely synthetic consciousness that you would be putting into a inorganic being, then I wouldn't consider that a human. But if really all that you're doing is changing the shell of the human, and you're transplanting, you're taking that consciousness and putting it into something else, then in essence, that's still a human, in my personal view. Just because the body of the person is not biological, the soul and the consciousness, or whatever you consider to be the soul or the consciousness, is the same as if I was in this biological form.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is just opinion or speculation for sake of this conversation, but I don't think that soul can incarnate into something that's not biological. And
really? Why do you think that?
Even with saying biological is almost too undefined, because a specific type of DNA sequencing that makes this type of life form. I think we use words like sentience to and consciousness and soul and spirit kind of interchangeably. So you kind of have to clearly define what each of those mean to you or to me.
I think that they're all the same thing.
But yeah, and then there's people who think that they're all the same thing, as an example. So if I were to move all of your memories and everything that's in your brain right now into a clone, that's not Ryder, right? It's a new being that is based on Ryder's current Xerox of consciousness. From the moment it becomes alive and starts living its own life, it then becomes its own thing. Its framework was you, a clone of you. If we were going to move into something that was completely fabricated, like say a Tesla bot, like one of those Optimus bots things that they're going to do, we can do the same thing where we take a copy of your consciousness, right? I don't even think that's the right word, a copy of what's in your brain right now, and move it over there. But there's other things to consider, like even, your behaviors, the way you behave, the way you operate as a human being is not just from whatever that consciousness is either. We have microbiomes in the gut that are making us do things. We have electromagnetic signals that come from the heart that make us do things, and then a whole bunch of electricity that bounces around in the brain that makes us do things. So there's more to the biological connection along with the soul that makes it sentient in a true sense, like what we would really want to attribute that word to. But if we're talking about something that can just mimic consciousness, then we're talking about AI and those examples that we already ran through. I personally don't believe that's a true form of consciousness, because there's no incarnated soul involved. It's a mimic or a replica of consciousness, kind of like cloning, kind of like AI programming.
I guess my question is more like, what if it was, though? What if you could put and then what if all speculation in theory, we're just having a conversation about conjecture here. What if the cyborg was built almost identically to the way that a human being functions? What if all that microbiome in their stomach and that electromagnetic stuff was also influencing them, just like it influences a biological human being? And then you also had a sentient consciousness that is inside of that cyborg?
Well, I mean, it could be possible. The other possibility is, and I think that this is any of the actual ETs that are visiting the planet at any given time would be something like this, where the consciousness is remotely connected to another biological life form,
Mm.
right? The way I explain it is our soul kind of has an anchor, and that anchor can attach to different things. It's right now it's attached to the DNA of the body that we're in, but what can happen is you dislodge that anchor and then move it over to another vessel. So I've never seen them achieve it, but in theory, they could create vessels that you could move over to that were not just a clone or not just a fully biological replication of a human being, something completely different in biology. Would be possible. I don't think that we do it, but it would be possible.
And then that brings in the question, well, if could that be the reason to create cyborgs or create clones is for some other consciousness from a different planetary system to actually be able to come here consciously, insert themselves into something that's already been pre-made for them to be able to walk around here in this reality?
That's Scientology. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, I think the way that we're going to use it is kind of the opposite, where we're going to send out some sort of drone, whether that's our own version of a gray, or like a gray alien is what I mean, or if that's something like a robot controlled by a conscious AI, or our consciousness attached to the AI. I think that's going to be it has to be the only answer that we're going to have anytime relatively soon to get off of this planet. So I like tech companies are working towards it. Boston Dynamics have been working towards it. Basically, what we're looking at is like a drone. That's essentially what we're talking about.
So a drone that can go out and explore?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Just like the way that they use the cloning program now is in behind closed doors, so that they can jump in a body, do something that they wouldn't want to do in their regular body and have no consequences of that. We could do the same thing with just a easy one, like sending people to the moon. Instead of sending actual people to the moon, we can just 3D print a body, move the consciousness over to that body, let it go, and then if anything happens to that body, their consciousness just comes back to the body sitting wherever it is. Or again, I kind of jumped some steps because you'd have to do something with that body, but
That's really interesting because that's what basically these Roswell files were supposedly leaked by this lady that went in and had face-to-face communication with one of the aliens that supposedly crashed at Roswell. That's like what they were explaining to her, that they use these doll bodies and that's how they traverse, and they're very lightweight. They don't have like bones or anything. They're very like flimsy, and because it's just a avatar that they use to get around in, and they can literally leave whenever they want to leave because their consciousness just gets sucked up out of that body into the mainframe AI computer system, wherever that AI computer system is, and then they're gone out of that body, and then they can just create a new body and do the exact same thing again
I was
if they
having
want it.
a friendly debate with a friend of mine who's kind of like a scholar on Sumerian texts and like the real story behind the Anunnaki that Sitchin's done his thing with. And what they were saying was basically that their story says that is what's happening, that these body forms that they were creating here could live all kinds of different time, and that different people from their own planet would drive it, or operate that body over time, almost like, let's just say, like, you live in the States, I live in Canada. Let's just say I dropped off like a replica clone of my own body at your place, and then whenever I felt like hanging out, I could just sit this body down and kind of put it to sleep and then be there with you, get up and start moving that around. There's one of the new episodes of Black Mirror.
That's exactly what I was just getting ready to say.
Yeah, one of they show that same type of idea, and
Yes.
yeah, it's the one thing I've said that to people for a long time, that the vast majority of ETs that have ever come here, it's not really them coming here. They'll do something like that, if anything. And yeah.
Yeah, that was a really good episode. That was probably my favorite episode of the new season, besides the first one. I thought the first one was incredible too, but that one was really good. How they would just they would have a robot replicant clone body on Earth. They would be what were they at, in like a space station or something, doing experiments in space, and then they would get into this little pod at night. And then they would be transported to the Earth replica clone body, and they could live there for 8 hours. And then they would put that clone body down, and then they would go back into space into the real body.
Yeah, and then the other one that they kind of another use that I think we'll see for actual cloning, they showed us in the movie Moon. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. It's most people hated it. I fucking love it, but kind of a quiet, dull movie, I guess, because it's really just, what's that actor's name? Sam Rockwell, and it's really just him in the movie. And the voice of Kevin Spacey. But basically that's what it is he's an operator on the moon who, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it, ends up finding out that he's a clone. That every so often, because the clone won't live very long, it's a copy of the original guy's consciousness that'll only last, let's say 6 months. I think it's longer in the movie, but let's say 6 months. So they let him go for 6 months, and then they basically kill him, like stage his death, and wake up a new one, who then carries on for 6 months, not understanding that there was another him there for the previous 6 months, thinking he just arrived.
That almost sounds identical to they cloned Tyrone. Did you see that one on Netflix?
Yet, no, but
oh, dude, you gotta watch that, bro.
yeah,
you gotta watch it. They cloned Tyrone. It is it's incredible. Watch that one tonight, dude. It's really good, and it encompasses a lot. But it's almost that exact same premise. Like they'll have like a clone, and then that clone will die, and then he'll wake up in a new body. It's almost like Groundhog Day, almost, but with clones instead of time travel.
Yeah, it's like that. I think it's a Sarah Connor on the meme, but it's like me looking up from hell, watching my the AI version of me run my new life. So it's like these elites who are signing up to like install their consciousness and have it like replicated over and over again. It's like they don't understand that it's not them, and that whatever their soul is going to go wherever their soul goes, and that they're going to have to watch as, another version of them keeps living a new life on planet Earth. It's a pretty funny thing to consider, because you'd have to be an atheist to want to sign up for one of those. You'd have to believe that the soul wasn't real.
Yeah, and then like what I was mentioning earlier, do you think that there's a difference between the soul, the spirit, and consciousness, or do you think that it's all the same thing?
No, I think, well, I mean, I guess it's all the same thing. Yeah. So
you think it's all the same?
Yeah, I think our consciousness is a part of our soul. Yes.
Yeah, it's the basis of the soul. So it would really be the consciousness that lets us animate our bodies in this 3D physical reality, then, right?
Yes and no. I mean, if like, again, when it comes to like, say, the clone and the replicas example, I mean, all you need is like a certain copy or a certain amount of that information to drive that being to go forward. But like, that would be my version of an NPC or a soulless entity. Very much like an AI. AI can appear like it's sentient, or can feign sentience, and I would even consider it to be sentient, but it's sentient without a soul. It's conscious without a soul. So I don't know that they are the same thing, but for most conversations, they kind of have to be.
Yeah. Then that means, well, what does animals not possess that consciousness, or is it a different kind of consciousness on a different level of the spectrum? Is it a lower like consciousness, like we're on in like a higher tier than what animals are, because they're also animated? They can also, walk around and be animals and do animal things and bite people and scratch people and
Yeah.
Be cats. Cats would
They
be
have
cats.
personality. They remember things. They remember people. They feel emotions. So, again, defining what we call sentience and souls and spirit. I teach this in the magic class, but the brief rundown of it is basically all living things have a flow of energy that comes from the planet they're living on, and whatever you want to call it, God or source or the universe, like that kind of energy. With all energy comes information. Energy is information. So cats, dogs, trees, everything that isn't us with an incarnated soul has at least those two flows of energy running into them at all time, along with that information, which is why they have their personality and their ability to remember things and what we call instincts, and that um, those various traits of emotion that matches everything else. And then with us, I think we have this third component, which is the actual soul that incarnates into the body, which then adds a new dimension, new layer to that experience. We experience it, we interact with it in a very different way. And I think that our body forms are constructed the way that they are to make the experience very, very different. And so it would almost be like what we're seeing in our pets and what we're seeing in the trees or the microbes or the mushrooms or whatever that is essentially the consciousness of the whole planet mixed with just a little bit of consciousness of the whole universe. Whereas we both benefit from that as well. But there's an aspect of you that's been all over the cosmos, and there's an aspect of me that's been all over the cosmos that's enjoying this particular pit stop in the cosmos.
Why do you think animals are here though? I mean, are they just here for pets and something cool to look at, or are they here just for food? Like, what's going on there? Because technically, nowadays, like, we don't really have to eat animals if we don't want to, of course. If you don't want to eat an animal, you can still survive. So what do you think the purpose of them even being here is for?
To maintain the environment so that we can be here eventually. That's why they're here before we are in any planet's development. We have the idea of evolution, that we evolve out of them, which would be the basic answer to that question. But I think it's different than that. I think that the ecosystem is controlled by the flora and fauna of the planet at the will of the planet itself. And that the planet's kind of goal is to bring itself to a place where it can support life like us, or some variation of life like us, some type of humanoid, it doesn't even need to be a humanoid, but some type of species that would then be vessels for souls from all over the universe to incarnate into and experience a different game, basically a different realm, if you will, a different experience. And then on top of that, there's gazillions of them. So
Could you imagine like being like way back in the day in like the times of like cavemen, and then you've never seen like weird and strange animals, and then all of a sudden like a freaking saber-toothed tiger just pops up out of nowhere, dude? You'd think that it was an alien, bro. You'd be like, what is that? What is that? Or a gigantic bear? You'd be like, where did this come from? Did this come from space? I don't freaking know. Did this thing come from the stars?
yeah, I
No,
think
they
it's
would misinterpret that as well. I mean, of course, if they're running into a face to face, they're probably dead. But you know, it's just interesting how actually pretty wacky things are here, and how strange and like how weird nature automatically is. And I think that it's been a weird thing with this community that they want to take the magicness. I don't know if that's a word. Magicness a word? I don't know. I'm making it a word. The magicness out of nature, right? And they're wanting to make it like to where regular things just don't happen anymore. It's always somebody behind the curtain. It's always the Wizard of Oz. It's always someone, controlling and doing everything. Like they make it to where nature just doesn't nature anymore. Nature just doesn't. Nature isn't wild and crazy like she used to be. She don't develop all these wild and crazy things anymore. It's always someone else doing it. And I think that that's a very dangerous route to go down. Nature is amazing. It makes beautiful things. I think it's art, really. I think nature just makes amazing art.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that things aren't magical or mystical. It's just we've forgotten how to see it. We have let the powers that be convince us that magic is something that is not. And now they gave it to the church, and now they're giving it to aliens and anything to just keep it away from you. Yeah, as long as you feel like you're inferior to whatever it is, then they're doing their job.
Have you seen that thing in Utah where people have taken pictures of it, and it's like it was cut out of the mountain because that's how you travel out the mountain, and it's just this big open like weird square thing in the side of the rock, and people are saying that it's an alien base.
Yeah,
Have you seen that?
yeah, yeah.
Like, we
Yeah.
discovered it, we found it, it's the secret magical entrance to the alien base.
Well, that's been the kind of, the downside to the internet is you don't know what you don't know. And so if you don't know that you don't know something and someone comes along and says something that makes sense to you, you're going to follow it. You're not, we've been talking about it all day.
Yeah.
Science is doing the same thing that the religion used to do, where they're basically muddying the water so much that it makes it seem like it's impossible for you to learn and understand on your own. And yeah, I think that we are capable of learning these things and understanding them, and it doesn't take the experts always distilling it for us. But that all comes with responsibility and discipline and effort, and it's a lot easier to just watch YouTube videos and believe what I want to. So I'm going to do that. Please pass me the Cheetos.
I need the treat Cheetos, the Doritos, the refried beans, and I'm gonna sit back, kick my legs up, and watch this bad boy. Well, thanks, Shane. I appreciate you a lot, brother. Thanks for coming on. Always a magical and wonderful conversation. And thanks, Jay Chan, for your wonderful and lovely comment. Really appreciate you. Rebecca says, "You don't know what you don't know." And boy, that's a mouthful. Yep, that's right. That's right, Rebecca. But Shane, where can people find you online if they would like to contact you, or whatever they would like to do with your information? Send it to the CIA and whatever it is that they want to do. Put your freaking email into some nonsense generator to send you all kinds of spam.
Well, I would really appreciate it if all the people who believe that I work for the CIA would do me the kindness of sending them emails until they pay me, because I'm still waiting on that paycheck. But in the meantime, with the link tree, the URL after the / Shane_Sador will find you all my links. There's a website called The Rebels Advocate. I have a Patreon channel. It's Shane_Sador_storyteller, which is where I do most of my stuff. It's pretty active for a Patreon channel. And that's about it.
Awesome. Link to contact Sheen is in the description of this video. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. Really appreciate your time this evening. And thanks to all of the Ryder Ranger members. Go to the community tab if you're already a Ryder Ranger member and get the brand new video that just dropped yesterday titled New Alien Autopsy. And if you would like to sign up to be a Ryder Ranger member to get those bonus episodes weekly, you can do that. The link is in the description. Please check out JFKX on Amazon Prime. It is on Tubi as well. Shane just watched most of it recently, I believe. What did you think of it, Shane?
I haven't actually finished it still, but it was great for what I saw, and it was it was awesome because I never went on to Tubi. I actually was I don't know. I think I was looking for specific horror movies, so I downloaded Tubi, and they're right in front of me. I'm like, that's Ryder's movie. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It gave me that little bit of excitement. It was kind of cool to see.
Noble Truth says Canadian Intelligence Agency. Yeah, Shane is a part of the Canadian Intelligence Agency. That's right.
The hockey.
Do you guys have one of those up there? Do you guys have a?
Yeah, CSIS. Yeah. They call it. Yeah.
CSIS. What does it stand for?
Canadian Secret Intelligence Service, I believe.
Oh man, Noble Truth was almost right on the money.
Yeah.
But yeah, check out JFKX on Tubi for free. If you are outside of the United States, you can also check out JFKX on Vimeo as well. The links are in the description. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you all being in the chat. Wonderful. I hope you guys really enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next time.